The 1060 versus the 980. We put them head to head in some of the most popular games. Let's see who comes out on top. When testing out these games, we used a Ryzen 2700X and 16 gigabytes of RAM. First up in good old Fortnite, the Battle Royale that everybody loves, we tested at 1080p performance mode settings. You're not going to see a whole lot of difference in these CPU-based games that we put at the beginning of the video, but it just goes to show you that the CPU is probably the most important in these things. You can't have a terrible GPU, but it doesn't make a whole lot of difference. In other CPU-based games like Valorant and Overwatch, you can slightly change the FPS based off if you go at high settings or low settings. With both of these GPUs, higher settings got us closer to 200 and lower settings kept us above 160. So again, the CPU is important in these games. The GPU matters a little bit, but not a whole lot. So in GTA 5, it says the 1050 Ti, but it's really not. It's the 980. I forgot to change the name when I recorded this, and I promise it is the 980. GTA is one of those weird games where it's really CPU dependent, but you can't have a terrible GPU. So I kind of put it in between these before we do the heavy GPU games. The GTX 1060, I think, steadily stays solid better than the 980. You see the 980 jump some crazy jumps up into like the 160s, but I feel like the 1060 is like just a steady, smooth force through the whole built-in benchmark that we run here. So I would give it the edge, even though the 980 is really close. The next few games we're going to test are going to stress out these GPUs just a little bit more. And if you love this kind of content, please help me out by liking and subscribing. The results on Red Dead Redemption 2 really kind of surprised me. They were very, very, very close, which I kind of expected, but the GTX 980 actually performed slightly better. The FPS average was about 0.4 of a point higher, but the minimum really surprised me. The minimum FPS for the GTX 980 was 26 versus the 1066 gigabyte, which was like 17. In Cyberpunk 2077, the GPUs performed as expected. The 1066 gigabyte version outperformed the GTX 980 with an average FPS of 44 versus an average FPS of 38. It's not that big of a difference, but this was at 1080p high settings for the preset. You could always drop it down and get a little bit more playable experience if you really wanted to. In Call of Duty, we ran one game at Warzone and one game in the multiplayer. That was totally an accident and goof on my part, and I've already sold one of the GPUs, but you can expect the multiplayer to be a little bit better as far as FPS goes than Warzone. The 1066 gigabyte version is definitely going to win here because the FPS is even better in Warzone than the 980 is in multiplayer, and you know the 980 is going to do worse in Warzone because it's just how Call of Duty is. If you think you might want to pick up one of these two GPUs, check the links down in the description. We've got them linked to eBay. It'll help me out if you decide to purchase one. No extra cost to you. And if you like this video, then you're definitely gonna like this one.